Story 1. The coffin shift. What I saw in the morgue at Bellevue Hospital. The morgue was never silent. Not truly. Even in the dead of night, when the corridors above lay empty and the city's pulse slowed to a whisper, something always hummed. The refrigeration units, the low buzz of fluorescent lights, the occasional creak of settling concrete. I'd grown used to it. I'd worked there for 7 years, cataloging the forgotten, tagging the nameless, filing the tragedies no one wanted to claim. But that night was different. It started with drawer 3A. The body had arrived just after midnight, no ID, no paperwork, just a note, found near the river. No visible trauma. I logged it, tagged it, and slid it into cold storage. Routine. But when I checked the surveillance feed an hour later, something was wrong. The timestamp read 3:17 a.m., but I hadn't looked at the monitor until 3:24. I rewound the footage. The drawer opened on its own. Slowly. Deliberately. No one was in the room. The timestamp on the monitor hadn't changed. Still 3:17. But my watch said 3:26. 9 minutes had passed. I checked the wall clock, same. I even pulled out my phone. All synced. But the surveillance feed was stuck in that one moment, like time had frozen inside the morgue. I leaned closer to the screen trying to spot a glitch, a pixel shift, anything. That's when I saw it. In the corner of the frame behind me, something moved. Not me. Not the coffin. Something else. A shadow. Brief. Subtle. Like someone ducking out of view. I spun around so fast I knocked over the stool. Nothing. Just the hum of the fridge units and the faint smell of antiseptic. I checked every corner. No one. No movement. But the monitor showed it again, the shadow clearer this time. It wasn't shaped like a person. Too tall. Too narrow. It lingered behind me for exactly 3 seconds, then vanished. I replayed the footage. Same result. I was alone in the room, but something else was there. Watching. I felt it then, that pressure in the chest, like the air had thickened. Like I wasn't supposed to be here. I backed away from the monitor, heart pounding. The lights flickered, just once but enough to make me flinch. I told myself it was faulty wiring, old building, nothing unusual. But the silence was too complete. No distant footsteps. No hum from the hallway. Just the morgue, sealed in its own vacuum. I reached for the intercom to call upstairs, but it crackled with static before I touched it. Then a voice, faint, broken like it was underwater, whispered my name. Not shouted. Not called. Whispered. Slowly. Deliberately. I froze. The voice didn't come from the intercom. It came from the room. From behind the drawers. I turned toward the cold chambers, each one sealed, each one labeled. I knew who was in each. I had signed the intake forms myself. But the drawer labeled 3A, the one with the man who had no face, was slightly ajar. Just a crack. Enough to see the edge of the white sheet inside. I hadn't opened it. I hadn't touched it. I stepped closer against every instinct and placed my hand on the handle. It was warm. I yanked the drawer open. The sheet was folded neatly over the body just as I'd left it. But the tag was gone. The ID number. The name. Nothing. I pulled the sheet back slowly, expecting the same faceless corpse. But it wasn't faceless anymore. The skin was still pale, waxy, but the features were there, and they were mine. My nose. My mouth. My eyes closed but unmistakable. I stumbled backward, knocking into the metal table, gasping for breath. My own dead face stared back at me, serene, untouched, as if it had been waiting. I slammed the drawer shut and locked it, hands trembling. I didn't care about protocol anymore. I needed to leave. I grabbed my coat, turned off the monitor, and headed for the door. But it wouldn't open. The keypad blinked red, rejecting my code. I tried again. And again. Nothing. The lights dimmed further and the temperature dropped. My breath fogged in the air. Then the intercom crackled again, louder this time. The voice returned, not whispering now but chanting. My name over and over in a rhythm that matched my heartbeat. I backed into the center of the room, surrounded by drawers of the dead, the chant growing louder, more distorted. The lights above flickered violently, casting long, twitching shadows across the floor. I screamed for help, pounded on the door, but no sound escaped. It was like the room had swallowed my voice. Then drawer 3A slid open on its own. Slowly, deliberately. The sheet was gone. The body was gone. But something else lay inside. A mirror. Small. Cracked. I stepped closer, drawn to it against my will. In the fractured glass, I saw myself, not as I was, but as I had been moments ago, staring into the monitor, confused and afraid. Then the reflection blinked. I hadn't. It smiled. I hadn't. And then it whispered, "You were never alone." The lights went out. The door clicked open. I ran, never looking back. But every night since, I've heard the intercom crackle. And sometimes when I pass a mirror, I see a version of me that doesn't quite follow. A half second too slow, a smile too wide. Something stayed behind. Or maybe, something came with me. Story 2. The Loop. What I found in the footage from Chicago's Rush University Medical Center. I finally decided to visit the necropsy room in person. Not because I believed anything weird was happening, I just wanted to prove it was a glitch. I went in after hours, swiped my badge, walked down the sterile hallway. Everything smelled like disinfectant and cold metal. The kind of place where silence feels heavier than it should. I passed the observation window and glanced inside. Empty. Just the stainless steel tables and the hum of the overhead lights. Then the lights flickered. Just once. But it was enough to make me stop. I looked back at the window, and I swear for half a second I saw someone. Standing behind the glass. Same lab coat. Same clipboard. Same face. What? But he wasn't moving. Just staring. I blinked and he was gone. I told myself it was a reflection. A trick of the light. I even laughed out loud like some idiot in a horror movie trying to shake off the tension. But my hands were shaking. I didn't go inside. Back at my desk, I tried to focus on paperwork, but my mind kept drifting. I pulled up the security footage from the necropsy room. Nothing unusual. No one entered. No one left. But when I paused the video at the exact moment I saw the figure, there was a blur. Just a faint distortion like static on an old TV. I zoomed in. Enhanced. Nothing. Just pixels. But it felt wrong. Like something was hiding in the noise. That night I dreamed of the room. Except it wasn't empty. The tables were covered in sheets and under each one was a body. I walked from table to table lifting the covers. Every face was mine. Some smiling. Some screaming. One whispered something I couldn't hear. I woke up drenched in sweat, heart pounding like I'd run a marathon. I didn't sleep again for days. I started avoiding the necropsy wing entirely, but the feeling followed me, like the room was inside me now. I started seeing him in other places, reflections in monitors, passing glimpses in glass doors, always just out of reach, always watching. I told myself it was stress, sleep deprivation, maybe even a breakdown, but deep down I knew it wasn't just in my head. I began recording myself at night, hoping to catch something, anything, that would explain the dreams. One morning I reviewed the footage. At 3:17 a.m. the camera glitched. For 3 seconds the screen went black. When it came back I was sitting upright in bed, eyes wide open, smiling. I don't remember doing that. I don't remember waking up. But the timestamp doesn't lie. I deleted the video. I stopped recording. I stopped talking to people. Every time someone asked if I was okay, I'd nod and smile. The same smile from the footage. I didn't recognize it anymore. It felt like someone else's expression, borrowed and worn like a mask. I started wondering if I was still me, or if I'd become the thing I saw in the necropsy room. Yesterday I went back. I don't know why. Maybe to confront it. Maybe to surrender. The hallway felt longer than before, like the building itself was resisting me. I reached the door, swiped my badge, and stepped inside. The room was dark. No hum of lights. No antiseptic smell. Just silence. And him. Standing by the table. Same coat. Same face. But this time he moved. He smiled and beckoned me forward. I didn't resist. I lay down on the table. Cold metal against my back. He leaned over me, clipboard in hand, and whispered something I finally understood. "You were never alone." Then everything went black. I woke up this morning in my bed, but something's different. My reflection doesn't blink when I do. My voice echoes before I speak. And when I walk past the necropsy room now, the door opens on its own. Story 3. The Whispering Drawer. What happened at Massachusetts General? I know how this sounds. Whispering Drawer, creepy hospital, missing corpse. It's like the setup for a bad Netflix horror flick. But I swear I'm not the type to jump at shadows. I've been a forensic pathologist for 12 years. I've seen bodies in every state imaginable, bloated, burned, dismembered. You stop reacting after the first 100. That night at Massachusetts General was supposed to be routine. One body. One report. No drama. The autopsy suite was quiet, sterile, humming with the usual fluorescent buzz. I had my gloves on, scalpel laid out, and the body, male mid-40s, cardiac arrest, prepped on the table. I remember thinking how peaceful he looked. No trauma. No mystery. Just a clean case. Then I heard it. A soft rattle like metal tapping against metal. I glanced at the cold storage wall. One of the drawers was vibrating. Not violently, just enough to make a sound. I rolled my eyes. Probably a loose hinge or the compressor acting up again. I walked over, half annoyed, half curious. The drawer in question was labeled 3C. I hadn't used it that night. I pulled it open slowly, expecting maybe a misfiled body or a tool someone forgot. But it was empty. Completely clean. No condensation, no tray, nothing. Just the cold steel interior and a sound. A whisper. Faint like breath against glass. I swear it said my name. Not loud. Not clear. Just there. I stood frozen for a moment, waiting for it to repeat. It didn't. I laughed. Out loud. Because what else do you do when a drawer whispers your name? I even said, "Nice try," like I was talking to a prankster. Maybe one of the interns had rigged something. A speaker, a motion sensor. I checked the edges, the back panel. Nothing. Just metal and silence. I closed it, shook my head, and walked back to my station. But when I got there, the body was gone. The table was empty. No sheet. No tags. No signs of movement. Just my scalpel, and a folded note tucked underneath it. I didn't touch the note right away. I just stared at it, trying to process what I was seeing. The body couldn't have just vanished. There were no footsteps, no dragging marks, no sound. The suite was locked from the inside, standard protocol during postmortems. I was alone. I checked the security monitor above the door. Static. Just static. That's when I picked up the note. It was folded once, neatly, like something I'd do myself. And the handwriting, it was mine. "You're next." That's all it said. No signature. No explanation. Just those 2 words written in my own looping script. I felt my stomach drop. I don't scare easily, but something about seeing my own handwriting, when I hadn't written anything, made my skin crawl. I checked my pockets, my clipboard, even the trash bin. No duplicate notes. No signs of tampering. I looked around the room, half expecting someone to jump out and yell, "Gotcha!" But there was no one. Just the hum of the lights. And the drawer. Still rattling. I backed away from the table, notes still in hand, and tried to think logically. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I'd written the note earlier and forgotten. Maybe the body had been moved by someone with clearance. But none of that made sense. I hadn't left the room. No one had entered. And the whisper. I kept replaying it in my head. It wasn't just a sound, it had shape, intention. Like someone was right behind me, speaking through clenched teeth. I decided to check the other drawers, one by one, just to be sure. Most were occupied, tagged, sealed, accounted for. But when I got to 3C again, the one that had whispered, it was open. I hadn't left it that way. I know I hadn't. Inside, something had changed. There was a smear on the back wall, faint reddish brown like dried blood. And beneath it, etched into the metal with something sharp, were 3 words, "I see you." I stepped back so fast I nearly slipped. My heart was pounding now. Not from fear, not yet, but from the sheer impossibility of it all. I wanted to leave. I should have left. But something kept me there, a mix of stubbornness and disbelief. I'm not the kind of guy who runs from shadows. I needed proof. I grabbed my phone to take a photo of the drawer, the smear, the carving. But the screen stayed black. Dead. I tried powering it on, plugging it into the wall. Nothing. That's when the lights flickered. Just once. A quick pulse. And in that split second of darkness, I saw someone standing by the table. It wasn't the body. It wasn't anyone I recognized. Just a figure, tall, still, head tilted slightly to the side. I blinked and the lights came back. The table was empty again. No one there. But the scalpel, it had moved. It was now resting at the edge, pointing toward me. I didn't touch it. I didn't move. I just stood there, breathing shallow, trying to convince myself this was stress. Sleep deprivation. A prank gone too far. But deep down I knew. Something was wrong with this room. With this night. I left everything behind. The scalpel, the note, even my coat. I walked out of the suite and didn't look back. I told the night supervisor there was a malfunction in the cold storage and that I needed to file a report. I didn't mention the whisper, or the missing body, or the figure. I just needed to get out. I drove home in silence, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. But when I got to my apartment, the lights were already on. And on my kitchen counter, right where I always leave my keys, was another note. Folded once. Same handwriting. Same words. "You're next." I haven't slept since. I keep checking the locks, the windows, the mirror. I don't know what's happening, if it's real, if I'm losing it, or if something followed me from that room. But if anyone's ever worked in a morgue, if you've ever heard your name whispered from an empty drawer, please say something. I need to know I'm not the only one. Story 4. The Venice Beach vanishing. A body that shouldn't have moved. I don't talk about work much. People get uncomfortable when you mention dead bodies over dinner. I've been doing transport for the county for almost 9 years now, picking up from clinics, homes, accident scenes. You learn to shut things out. Keep your head down. Get the body. Get out. But something happened last week near Venice Beach that I can't shake. I've tried. God knows I've tried. It was a small clinic tucked between a vape shop and a boarded-up yoga studio. The kind of place that smells like bleach and old carpet. I was called in for a routine transfer. Male, mid-40s, cardiac arrest. The body was already sealed in a coffin when I arrived. No family. No staff around. Just me in the prep room. I signed the papers, wheeled the coffin into position, and was about to lock the gurney when it shifted. Just a little. Like something inside had rolled. I paused. Coffins don't move. Not unless someone's messing with them or the gurney's uneven. I checked the wheels. All locked. The room was silent. No vents blowing, no vibrations. I leaned in listening. That's when I heard it. 3 knocks. Slow. Deliberate. From inside the coffin. I swear to you I didn't breathe for a full minute. I've seen bodies twitch before. Post-mortem reflexes. Gas escaping. But this wasn't that. This was intentional. I reached for my radio, but it was dead. Just static. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe some stupid need to prove it was nothing. I unlatched the lid. Lifted it slowly. The velvet interior was pristine. Empty. No body. Just a hospital ID bracelet lying in the center. Still warm. I backed away, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. The bracelet had a name, Thomas R. Keller. I took a photo just to prove to myself it was real. Then I checked the paperwork again. Same name. Same room. Time of death, 11:42 p.m. I looked at the wall clock. It was 11:42 p.m. Exactly 1 year later. I felt something tighten in my chest, like the air had thickened. I tried calling dispatch. No signal. I stepped into the hallway, but the lights flickered and went out. Just the prep room stayed lit. I swear the shadows in that room stretched longer than they should have. I went back in, grabbed the bracelet, and slammed the coffin shut. I didn't care about protocol anymore. I just needed to get out. But when I turned to leave, the door was closed. I hadn't touched it. I reached for the handle. Locked. I jiggled it, shoved it, even kicked it once. Nothing. The prep room was soundproof. I knew that. No one would hear me. I turned back toward the coffin, and for a second, I thought I saw someone standing behind it. Just a shape. Tall. But when I blinked, it was gone. The bracelet in my hand felt heavier now, like it didn't want to be held. I started pacing, trying to think. Maybe this was a prank. Maybe someone was watching me. But the clinic was closed. I'd seen the security footage. No one had entered in hours. I checked the corners of the room, the ceiling tiles, even under the gurney. Nothing. Then I noticed something I hadn't before. The velvet lining inside the coffin. It was indented, like someone had just been lying there recently. I couldn't stop staring at that indentation. It was too defined, too fresh. I touched it, and the velvet was warm. Damn. I pulled my hand back and wiped it on my shirt, but the smell lingered. Sweet. Rotten. Like fruit left out too long. I turned toward the wall mirror above the sink, hoping to ground myself. But my reflection wasn't right. I was standing still, but it blinked before I did. I stumbled back, knocking over a tray of instruments. The clatter echoed like a scream. I didn't know what was happening anymore. I just wanted out. I tried the door again, still locked. Then I heard it. A voice. Raspy. From inside the coffin. Said my name. Not shouted. Just whispered. Like it knew me. Like it had been waiting. I dropped the bracelet. It landed face up. The name had changed. It now read, Michael J. Torres. My name. My birth date. I staggered back, heart racing, eyes burning. I didn't know what to believe anymore. I hadn't hallucinated that. I hadn't imagined the knocks. The voice. The empty coffin. I looked around the room, desperate for an exit, for logic, for anything that made sense. But the lights dimmed again, and the coffin began to rock. I don't remember how I got out. 1 second I was trapped. The next I was outside, gasping for air, the bracelet still clutched in my hand. I never filed the report. I never spoke to anyone at the clinic again. But I checked the records later. Thomas R. Keller died in that room. August 13th, 11:42 p.m. Exactly 1 year before I was called in. And now, every night at 11:42 I hear knocking. From somewhere in my apartment. If anyone's ever been through something like this, please say something. I need to know I'm not the only one. Story 5. The body that wasn't logged. A night in the Cedars-Sinai morgue. It started as a routine shift. The kind where the hum of the fluorescent lights is the loudest sound you hear. I was alone in the morgue just past midnight, logging the intake from earlier that day. 3 bodies. All tagged, all accounted for. I remember checking the cooler, drawers 3, 7, and 9. Everything was in order. I signed the log and sat down with a coffee that had gone cold hours ago. That's when I heard it. A soft metallic clatter. Like wheels on tile. I looked up at the monitor, the hallway camera. A gurney was rolling into frame. Slowly. No one was pushing it. It stopped right outside the morgue door. I stared at the screen, waiting for someone to appear. No one did. I got up, opened the door. The hallway was empty. No gurney. Just silence. I checked the footage again. It was still there, frozen on the screen like the camera had captured something the eye couldn't. I rewound the tape. The gurney had come from the far end of the corridor out of view. I fast-forwarded. It never left. Just sat there. I went back to the hallway. Still nothing. I started to feel wrong. Like the air had thickened. I returned to the cooler. Opened drawer 3. Still there. Drawer 9, same. But drawer 7 was empty. I froze. I knew it had been occupied. I checked the log again. Male 42 cardiac arrest. I remembered tagging him myself. I searched the room. Nothing. No signs of movement. No misplaced sheets. Just an empty drawer and a growing sense of dread. I called security. Told them someone might have tampered with the cooler. They came, checked the logs, reviewed the footage. But when they pulled it up, the gurney wasn't there. Just me sitting with my coffee. They looked at me like I was sleep deprived. Maybe I was. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. They left. I stayed. I had to. Something wasn't right. I started checking the drawers again. Over and over. Drawer 7 stayed empty. I even checked the intake records. No one had signed the body out. No autopsy scheduled. No transfer. It had just vanished. And the gurney? It showed up again. Around 2:41 a.m. same place. Same silence. I printed the timestamp and circled it. 2:41, I kept staring at it like it would give me answers. Then I noticed something else. The hallway camera, it had a reflection. A glass panel across from the morgue door. I zoomed in, frame by frame. And there it was, in the reflection. A figure, just for a second, standing behind the gurney. No face, no features, just a silhouette, watching the door. I didn't tell anyone. I knew they wouldn't believe me. I barely believed myself. But I started keeping notes. Every night, same time, same place. The gurney appeared. Sometimes it moved. Sometimes it didn't. But the reflection, that figure, it was always there. Closer each time. I stopped checking the footage. I couldn't take it anymore. I started questioning myself. Maybe I hallucinated it. Maybe I dreamed the whole thing. But then I found something. In the corner of the morgue, behind the supply cabinet, a single latex glove. Crumpled. Stained with something dark. I hadn't used gloves that night. I hadn't gone near that cabinet. I picked it up, turned it over. Inside, written in faded black ink, 2:41. That was the time the gurney appeared on the footage. I dropped it. My hands were shaking. That night, I locked the morgue door. I'd never done that before. It's not protocol. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. Not from the hallway, from inside. Every time I turned my back, I felt it. Like someone standing just behind me. Breathing. I started checking the cooler units obsessively. Counting bodies. Recounting. I even started whispering to myself, stupid things like, "You're fine. It's just stress." But I knew. I knew something had come in that night, and it hadn't left. I stopped sleeping. I stopped going home. I stayed in the break room. Lights on, door locked. I told my supervisor I was working overtime. He didn't ask questions. No one ever does in this place. But I kept hearing things, soft dragging sounds like wheels on tile. I checked the cameras again. Nothing. But every morning the gurney was back in the hallway. Same spot. Facing the cooler. I stopped moving it. I stopped touching anything. Last night I opened the cooler. I don't know why. I just had to see. The body that had vanished, it was there. Drawer 7. No tag. No sheet. Just lying there, eyes open. Looking straight at me. I slammed the drawer shut and ran. I'm not going back. I don't care what they say. I know what I saw. I know what I felt. And I know that whatever came in that night, it's still waiting.